Okay, you are going to create an overhang model that we're going to print out for you that's going to talk to you about what are overhangs and why they're important to consider in our 3D models and our 3D prints. We're really going to talk about kind of what we look at as the rule of 45. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to open up our Tinkercad in your home base, your dashboard, and you're going to select a 3D design and we're going to go to create a new design. And when you go to create a new design, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename these designs. And our designs are all going to have our names on them as to what we've got here. So we're going to click up here to change the name. And we're going to put our name in here, Burke, dash, and I'm going to call this overhang. This is my overhang model. Okay, so now what we've got is this is our work plane. You guys did a good job looking at with your Tinkercad keyring and everything. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to bring a box in. We're going to drop it in our work plane. I like to try to drop it in the middle. It doesn't have to be exact, but you just want to kind of get it in there. And what we want to do is we're going to change our model shape. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the width of our block to 3 millimeters. So we're going to click on it. You can do one of two ways. I can drag it this way, or I can get it what I like to do is change it here and do 3 millimeters. We still want to keep our width at that 20 millimeters, and then our height, we're going to change our height to 60 millimeters. Okay, so 3 millimeters wide, 20 millimeters deep, 60 millimeters tall, and that's going to give us, if you hold two fingers down, you can zoom around, or if you're using a mouse, your right mouse button, you can zoom around and see your model. And so we have this nice straight line here. Now this is going to print beautifully, because what we're talking about is, think of your 3D print material as like toothpaste. It's going to come and it drops straight down. It's got something to land on. This will print beautifully for us. What we're going to do is create a model to show where our printing starts to mess up when we get into overhangs. So what we're going to do, now that we have this 3 millimeter wide by 20 millimeters deep and 60 millimeters tall, we're going to duplicate it. So we're going to click on it. We're going to hit the copy button. We're going to copy our shape, and it copies it directly on top of it. So now all we have to do is drag one out just a little bit. And what we want to do is we're going to start to make an overhang for it. And so if we go up to where we see the curve arrows on either side, that's going to allow us to do our angle, and we can drag it to change what we want the angle to be. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag it to the right, and you'll notice that this is going to be a negative number. So we're going to do a negative 22.5. So we're going to do negative 22.5 degrees. Well, 22.5 degrees, and then we'll drag this again to get our
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Get our model to the 22.5 degrees. There it is. So now we've got our 22.5 degrees. What we want to do is we're going to drag this model over a little bit. And what we want to do is we want it to line up nicely with our other model here. So what we're going to do is use the align tool. So as you see right now how they're not touching and they're kind of left off in space, and this one is, if I look at it, is actually just kind of hanging out there. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to drag a box on your trackpad. You can drag a box around both your models. And we're going to hit the align tool, which is going to be right here, or the L key, the hotkey of L. When we go to align it, what we want to do is we want to align it so that they are at the very front and the front corner. So everything is aligned to the front corner. So we're going to align these two models to the front corner and the front. And so what that does, if you look at this, our models are exactly lined up and they're perfectly centered. So we've aligned everything to the front and the front edges. So we've got it. This would align it to the middle. This would align it to the far side. This makes sure that everything is aligned bottom to bottom. So we've got everything that is lined up. So our model is lined up perfectly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this again. So we're going to duplicate again. So I'm going to hit either my copy button or Control D to duplicate. I duplicate it again. I'm going to drag this out a little more. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another one, and we're going to rotate same block and everything. I'm going to rotate this, and you notice how it's going this way. I want to do 45 degrees, but for this one, I'm just going to do it at an angle. I'm just going to move my mouse to hold my finger down to move it. So I've got a 45-degree angle. Same thing, I'm going to grab all three of them now. I'm going to hit the align tool. We want to make sure that they're all aligned up to there. Make sure they're all aligned up to the edge, and make sure they're all lined up to the bottom. So this is going to align it from the top to the middle to the bottom. So this is at the bottom, left corner, left corner. So everything is lined up at the left corner. So you see how my model, everything is lined up exactly where it is. We're going to get another one, duplicate it out. I'm going to drag this one over, just get it out of the way. I'm going to drag my model down here, and I can either type it in or not. This one I'm going to do 67.5, right? So I can get close, but to get that 0.5, I got to really get it. So I'm going to go in here and do 67.5, and that's going to give me my 67.5. Same thing, select all of them, alignment tool, make sure it's aligned to the bottom, make sure they're aligned to the bottom, to the corner. See how my bottom corner, everything is lined up nicely. See how nice and neat that is? And then my last one that I'm going to do, I'm going to drag and duplicate one more. So we're going to duplicate additional one, pull this one out, and this one we're going to rotate it using our tool here, 90 degrees. Okay, and same thing. So now I've got this 90 degrees is just kind of floating in there. That black looks like a Christmas tree. Lets me elevate it. But easier yet is I'm just going to grab all my models, do my alignment tool. I'm going to align it left corner to the bottom, make sure they're aligned to the bottom. Everything is there, right? So now my model is set. I've got everything set up. So now what I'm going to do is I've got everything here. I'm going to group all this together because this is going to be what I want it to be. I want it to be one shape. I'm going to group that one shape together so everything is one shape. So now when I lift it up, I can lift up everything here. Okay, so now I've got my model. We've got our 0-degree angle. This is going to print perfectly. 22.5 degrees will print nicely. 45, this is really our limit. And you'll see this when we print your model. When we get to the 67.5, you're going to start to see some problems printing. The 90, absolutely going to see some problems. But now here's what's happening is the 90, we got to elevate it off to show where it is. So we're going to drag a box in here, right? And we're going to drag a box in the bottom. And then what we want to do is we're going to line both of these up. So if you look at this, see how nothing is lined up? But that's okay. We're going to use that alignment tool. So we're going to drag both of them after we've already made this one shape. So when I move this around, everything moves around with it. So that's one shape. This is one shape as well. My block is 20 by 20. We're going to drag both of these in here. And now we're going to go back to the alignment tool. For this one, what we want to do is we're going to align this to so that they're aligned to the left corner. So everything is aligned to the left corner. So everything is lined up left corner, left corner. Now what we don't want to do is we want to align this one to the top of this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to come around here and we want to align this to the top. So what we're going to do is bring this model down. And so we can get that done. So if we line this to the middle, it's going to go into the middle. We're going to align to here. We want to align it there. And we want to put this. If we do that, it's going to mess it up. So what we have to do is we want to drop this one down. Oh, we're going to get this out of here. I didn't want to make it as one. We're going to get this model here and drop this down into it so it is so that our models are actually in touching each other. And you want to go down just a hair so that they actually connect together. So we're going to go down just a little bit so that our models are actually all connected together. So when we look at this, everything is lined up nice and neat. Now this we're going to turn into one solid shape. So we're going to group these shapes together. We're going to make these the shapes. So now what we've got here, this is our model. So when we print this, when you're thinking of this, think of it as toothpaste. So our toothpaste is going to, on this one, is going to print perfectly, 0-degree angle. 22 should print nicely. 45, that's our limit for overhang. So this stuff that's hanging out here that's not going to have anything underneath it, it's going to still print pretty good. 67.5 going to have some problems. 90 going to have some real problems. Lots of filaments is going to be left over here. So now what we're going to do is, just so you know what your model looks like, is we're going to add some text in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a work plane. We're going to put a work plane on this edge here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add text. And so if you add text in numbers, if you just add the text box here, so we're going to add a text box in here. And if we open this up, you're going to make this and say 0. So this is going to be our 0 degrees. right? And what we want to do is we are going to take this now and we are going to push this. You want to shrink this down just a little bit so it's about 2 millimeters tall. And then what we're going to do is move this by grabbing it. Oh, we don't want to do that. We're going to grab the model. Let's get the model here. And we're going to grab it and put it up in here. And what you want to do is you just want to make it so that it looks good, does it? So you know what it is. And we want to make sure that that is fully on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to sink this in just a little bit so it's sunk into the model. So we got our 0 on here. So we've got 0 degrees. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change our work plane. So if we drag a work plane back to here, we go back to nothing. So you can see that's got the 0 on it. We're going to drag a work plane, and what you want to do is drag your work plane onto this surface here. So we know we're on that surface, and we're going to do our text again, and you just are going to resize it to shape it so that it's the right thing. And what we want to do for this one is this is going to be 22.5. Put this in your text. 22.5. Let's 22.5. So there's my text. And what you're going to do is this is obviously going to have to be shrunk down. You want to make it so it's legible for you. So we're going to shrink this way down and we're going to move this. And what you want to do is we're going to move this. And by having this on this work plane, it's automatically going to angle it so that it's on the right angle. But what you need to do when you look at this is we're going to shrink this down. And you always, always, always want to have it go and sink in just a little bit so it's a part of your model. But we don't want it coming out the other side there. So we're going to shrink this down so that it looks good. And when we're done, we choose our workspace and we continue to get it. And so then we'll click off of this and you see here, so I've got my 0, 22.5. You would continue to go mark this 45, 67.5, 90. When you are done getting this, you're going to go through and get all of those set up. You're going to make sure that you have all of your models oriented and everything is set. What you're going to do then is you're going to have to export this and save this or turn this in as an STL file to be submitted for printing. So when you're done with all of this, you're going to hit the export button on your Chromebook. You're going to export this as an STL, and that's the file that you're going to attach to your Google Classroom. So it's going to your name overhang that you attach to the Google Classroom, and that is your overhang model.